What's poppin', fellow nerds? Today we are doing another deck profile. I'm actually going to be profiling the black deck that I took to my locals Friday night. I built it on some theories that I had and very limited playtesting, mostly go fishing, but I did playtest a little bit with my wife to fine tune it just a tad. I ended up getting top 4 in the tournament, and I will post some or all of those matches over the course of this week with my commentary over them. And this deck is slightly different. I made a couple of additions after the locals tournament. I think it's like going to be a 4-card difference from the deck that's going to be in the gameplay that you'll see this week. But let's get into it. So starting off with our babies, we have 4 Kakenmon and then 1 Kapurimon. So Kakenmon has an effect of when attacking once per turn if this Digimon is level 7, gain 1 memory. So this is more of a toolbox deck, I would say. I'd call it like Black Toolbox, level 7, whatever. And then this is the one of Egg. Your turn while this Digimon has reboot, it gains 1000 DP. That does occasionally come up. A lot of your good dudes do have reboot, but our primary Egg is going to be this guy. So the goal of this deck is to ramp into a level 7 and then just apply tons of pressure once you get there. And Black does not have a way to turbo up to a level 7 as far as like cheap Digivolves. There are some cheap 4s, and there's a 2 cost to Digivolve 6, but there are no cheap 5s. All the 5s for Black right now cost 3 to Digivolve, so I didn't even worry about that. So this is just a Black blocker deck, and then once we ramp, we go into our 7s, and then we just start applying tons of pressure. But it's more of a tempo deck, but you'll see as we get into it. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but if you have not already entered our giveaway, check the link in the description. Giving away one of these. Check it out. Alright, let's get back to the video. For our rookies, we have 4 Toy Agumon, by far the best rookie. This Agumon is a 3 cost to play and 0 cost to Digivolve 1000 DP, but the reason why we're playing it is the inheritable reboot. Which for those of you that don't know, reboot says unsuspend this Digimon during your opponent's unsuspend phase. So if you have reboot on a Digimon, especially a blocker, you can swing in, and then on the beginning of your opponent's turn, they get to restand so they can't attack into it. Very good, especially when your guys have blockers, so like you can swing and then they restand and then you can just block on their turn. Very good card, always want to see this card. And our next rookie is our level 3 blocker. So this is a Gatsumon, 3 cost to Digivolve, or 3 cost to play, 0 cost to Digivolve, 3000 DP, regular blocker, has the blocker effect, and then when attacking, lose 2 memory. Very good just to play. We want blockers at every level. You'll see why a little bit later, but I mean, this is Black, so like we want to have blockers no matter what, just to keep our opponent at bay until we can build up into our big stacks and start applying a lot of pressure. And then we have 4 Ludomon. So Ludomon's 3 cost to play, 0 cost to Digivolve, 1000 DP. So we play this because I am playing a Ragna engine, a Black Ragna engine in this. And it's not really to turbo into Ragnalordmon, although we are playing some Ragnalordmon, spoiler. This is actually just because it's a consistency fix card. His effect is on play, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 Ragnalordmon Digimon card, and 1 Digimon card with a Legend Arms in its type among them to your hand. Place your remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So he's a Legend Arms type, and there is a 4, a 5, and a 6 that are all Legend Arm types, as well as Ragnalordmon. So like if you reveal 2 Ragnas with this effect, you can add both if you want. But this guy lets you fix your hand for the levels that you need to climb into your 7s, and he can also get himself, which is pretty cool. So that's the main reason why we're playing this. He's just a consistency fix card. And that is it for our rookies. I am playing 12, and I'm not playing any 2-drop vanillas. I'd rather play 1 more memory and get effects from my guys. And on to our champions. We are playing 4 Kurisarimon. This is the promo from the Digimon tournament promo pack. So the reason why we're playing this guy is because he is a 4 cost to play and 2 cost to Digivolve. He is a regular blocker, 5000 DP, which is less than a normal level 4 blocker for most decks. He's smaller than the other blocker that's available as a level 4 for Black, but we're playing him because he's 4 cost to play. Being able to play this guy for 4 does come into play quite a bit, and He's just as good. I mean, that DP is not really going to be relevant enough for me to miss it just by saving the memory here. But very good. And our next champion, we are playing 4 Greymon. So I love this card for several reasons. One, it's a 4 cost to play, and 2 cost to Digivolve. I love those kind of champions. But the main reason why we like this card is his inheritable. And his inheritable is your turn. While this Digimon has reboot, it gains jamming. And what jamming means is this Digimon can't be deleted in battles against security Digimon. So Toy Agumon obviously gives all of your Digimon that Digivolve on top of it reboot, but we also have a lot of Digimon that naturally have reboot in this deck. And being able to just swing in into your opponent's security with jamming and then restand on their turn, and most of the time it's going to be a blocker, is very good. It lets you apply early pressure while you're trying to ramp into your 7s and just kind of poke at their security for free. The only thing you're worried about is option cards going off at that point. But very good card. I really love seeing this card. And our last champion, we are playing 2 Tio Ludamon. He is a 4 cost to play and 2 cost to Digivolve, 4000 DP. He is a Legend Arms card, so he's our 2 targets for the level 4 for our Ludamon that we play. So his inheritable is, if this Digimon is level 7, trigger D-Digivolve 1 on one of your opponent's Digimon when you attack. It's not once per turn, but we don't have a way to restand our guys. Spoilers on our main phase, but we're mostly playing this card because it's a searchable level 4 in our deck, and it'll help fix our hands sometimes when we're missing a 4. But having this guy underneath a 7 is going to be brutal for your opponent. It's basically like, once you get a 7, if they don't deal with it, there's no way for them to win. Like, because you're just going to keep swinging every turn, and de-digivolving 1 is just going to keep setting them back. And like, it's basically a snowball effect. Once you ramp up into your 7 and you have 1 or 2 good effects on your inheritables, you're just going to just roll your opponent. But that is it for our champions. We are playing 10 of those. And on to our ultimates. We are playing 4 Andromon. So this is probably the best level 5 that Black has right now. He is a 7 cost to play, which is not that bad for a 5. He's 3 cost to Digivolve, which, as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure Black does not have access to anything cheaper than this at the 5 level. And he's 7000 DP, which is pretty big. And he has blocker with no drawbacks. So he does not, you don't lose memory when you attack with him like most blockers. So if you have a Greymon and a Toy Agumon underneath him, you can just poke with jamming and then restand on their turn with a 7k blocker. And just keep doing it every turn. So this guy's very good. I love seeing this card. And then we have our next one. We are playing 3 Metal Mamamon. So we're playing him for a couple of reasons. 1, he has reboot. And 2, he has, when Digivolving, return 1 level 7 Digimon with virus in its attribute from your trash to your hand. So, spoilers, all of our level 7s, which we are playing a few different ones, are virus type. So he can add literally any level 7 from our trash to our hand. So what that lets us do is it lets us reuse them if our opponent deals with them once. It lets us just pick it right back up and play it again. Or if they're in our security and get popped out by our opponent swinging into it, we can just, all right, cool, I'm going to get that from my trash, thank you. And then you just play this, grab that, and then play a 6, and then you play your 7 again. He is 3 to Digivolve, like all of our level 5s. He is 8 to play, but you're generally not going to want to play this guy from your hand just because he doesn't do anything if he doesn't Digivolve. But him having reboot's very good because if you just put him on top of the Greymon with the inheritable, he automatically gets jamming because he has reboot by himself without Toy Agumon. So very good, just swing, jamming, restand, and they can't attack into it. We're only playing 3 of this card because the odds of it being live, as far as like having a 7 in your trash, are not super high early game. So you'd want to draw into this card as opposed to opening with it. But we do want to see it, so we are playing 3. And then our last ultimate, we are playing 2 of the Raiji Ludamon. So this is the Legend Arm card at the 5 level for us. He's 6 to drop from hand, which is actually pretty cheap for a 5. Same as all of them, 7000 DP. And he has the same inheritable as a level 4. When attacking, if this Digimon is level 7, trigger D-Digivolve 1 on one of your opponent's Digimon. We're playing him mostly because he's the searchable level 5, so like I said, it lets you fix your hands and like grab a 5 if you're missing one. But if you do get a 7 on top of this guy, like I said, it's going to be bad news bears for your opponent. Like if you swing, you're just going to start setting them back every turn, and it's just going to be that much harder for them to come back on you. And that is it for our ultimates. We are playing 9. On to our megas. We are playing 3 War Greymon. This is probably my favorite mega in this deck. I think this card's incredible. So he's 12 cost to play, which doesn't really come up. You're usually not going to do that. 3 to Digivolve, which I do like, because it usually is not going to end your turn. 11,000 DP, which is pretty swole. And he's a blocker. He's an 11,000 DP blocker. And he has Reboot. So you can swing with him, and then your opponent, he reboots, and your opponent has to deal with an 11k blocker on the field on their turn. And if he's on top of our Greymon, he swings with jamming because he has Reboot himself. So you can swing over your opponent's Digimon, or you can swing into their security, and just the only thing you have to worry about is option cards. But very good, we love seeing this card. And on to our next mega. We are playing 3 Machinedramon. So Machinedramon is 12 to play. 4 to Digivolve, which I would prefer it be 3, but you know, they can't all be winners, right? 11,000 DP, and he has blocker, so he's a mega with blocker, which is awesome because it's hard for most other decks to swing over these guys easily. And he has an on-play effect, which is trigger Digivolve 2 on 2 of your opponent's Digimon. So what this lets you do, and the reason why I'm playing 3 of this, is if your opponent does end up like getting ahead of you somehow, like you're not able to catch up to them, you can just play this guy for 12. Yes, it's going to give them a ton of memory, possibly even maxing them out, but you get to set them back a lot. And if they don't have the cards in their hand to recover, like they're going to be in a super bad spot, especially because not only are you setting them back by 4 cards potentially, you're also making them deal with an 11k blocker on their turn. Which is not easy for a lot of decks to deal with. But I'm playing 3 of this because I do want to see this card. I don't want to ever be in a situation where this card will help bring me back into a game and not have this in my hands. That's why I'm playing 3. And if you don't need that effect, you can always just Digivolve on one of your 5s just to have a 6. So. And our last mega, we are playing 2 Briludramons. So he is a 10 drop, which is very cheap for a mega. I'm pretty sure that's the cheapest you can find in megas. And 3 to Digivolve, 12,000 DP, which is very big. And he is also a Legend Arm card. So he's our level 6 target for our Lunamon. So it lets you search for level 6. And he has an inheritable blocker. So any level 7 on top of this gets blocker, which most level 7s have very high DP. So it gives you that much higher of a ceiling as far as blocking is concerned. Very good. Also, when we get into our 7s, there's another reason why this card's good. But this is it for our megas. We are playing 8. And on to our 7s. We are playing 2 Millenniumon. So this guy's 15 play cost. You're pretty much never going to play this from hand though. 6 to Digivolve. Pretty standard for good level 7s. And his effect is, when Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of their deck, and then trash all Digivolution cards under that Digimon. So this gets rid of anything in the game. Like, the only thing that stops this from getting rid of it is, I think it's called Breath of the Gods, that Black plays. It's a 2-cost option that keeps Digimon from getting returned to the deck. But other than that, this gets rid of it. This gets rid of other Millenniumon, which his second effect. On deletion, if this card had Digivolution cards, you may play this card from your trash without paying its memory cost. So if they deal with this one time without like returning it to your hand, returning it to the deck, like if they delete it, you just get to play it for free again if it had Digivolution cards underneath it, which it makes them deal with it twice, which is awesome. So he's very annoying. And he has 13,000 DP, so you can pretty much swing into security pretty freely, and even if you do hit something that blows it up, boom, he's right back out on the field, making your opponent deal with him again. But his come into play effect is very good because it gets around like Craniumon can't be destroyed by card effects, so you can just return that to the bottom of their deck, and all kinds of good stuff. I love having access to play this card. Very fun to do. And our next 7, we are playing 2 Alter S. So I'm going to go over its effect and explain why this card is why I find this card particularly good in this deck. So he's 15 to play from hand. Pretty much never going to do that. 6 to Digivolve. Makes sense. He's a good level 7. 15,000 DP, which is the biggest DP in the game currently. And his effect is, when Digivolving, trigger Digivolve 1 on all of your opponent's Digimon, and then delete all Digimon on your opponent's side of the field with 5,000 DP or less. So a strategy that a lot of people use against black once they get their blockers on the field is to just go super wide to where they can just have enough board presence to just swing for lethal even if you have a bunch of blockers out, which is a valid strategy. But if you do that, I can just boom, Alter S, all right, clear your board. And then it's pretty much game over from that. Like, you've invested so many cards to go wide like that, like, it's GG's. So this card is very good in this deck. I like it better in this deck than I do in red. But his second effect is, when attacking, you may make this Digimon unblockable for the turn by returning a level 6 underneath it to your hand, which can come into play when you're trying to swing for game. But honestly, I'm just going to activate this effect almost anytime I swing with this, just because it's a +1 and it lets you reuse that Mega underneath it. So unless there's a Bryludramon underneath this, I'm going to put it back in my hand. A Bryludramon underneath this is going to be insane because it makes him a blocker, which a 15,000 DP blocker, no thank you, sir. And our last level 7, we are playing 2 Ragnalordmon. So this is a 14 to drop from hand, which actually does come into play sometimes. You will play this from your hand just to apply a bunch of pressure to your opponent, but you'd prefer not to do that. He's 3 to Digivolve, which is insanely cheap, and he's 14,000 DP, and he just naturally has security attack +1, which is very good. He naturally has reboot, so if he's on top of your Greymon, he has jamming, even if he's huge. So even though he's huge. So if he runs into something bigger than him, cool, he has jamming. And he's also hitting for another security. But his effect of, when Digivolving, you may play 1 Durandamon or Bryludramon from your hand on top of this card's Digivolution cards to gain 3 memory. So if you Digivolve on top of one of your 6s and have a Bryludramon in your hand, you get to put that underneath him to give him blocker, and you gain the 3 memory you just spent to Digivolve into him. So, like, he's a free 7, essentially, which is incredible. And then he's just a 14k blocker with reboot and security attack +1. So you're just like, attack, all right, now you have to deal with a $14,000 or 14,000 DP body that has blocker on your turn. Good luck, buddy. But he's very good. He's also a searchable 7 from the Ludomon. So incredible card to have access to. Very good. And that is it for the level 7s. We are running 6 total. And on to the Tamers. We are running 2 Tai Kamiyas, the Memory Setter. So for those of you who don't know, the Memory Setter is at the start of your turn. If you have 2 memory or less, it sets your memory to 3. And then this one, on the opponent's turn, all of your black Digimon get 1,000 DP, and these stack. So if you have both of these out, all of your guys are 2,000 DP bigger. So like, your War Greymons are now 13,000 DP, which, unless you're playing against specifically red, you're probably going to be bigger than anything your opponent can put out if you're at 13,000 DP. So they're going to have to do something other than try to swing over you. This card is pretty similar to the Tai Kamiya in red as far as having multiples. So I play 2 just so I can see it more often, but I really don't want to draw this more than once. Like, I would rather just have one of these on the field and never see the other one. But having both out isn't too terrible because, like I said, you do hit certain thresholds where it's really hard for your opponent to swing over you. And then our last 3 cards of the deck and our last 3 Tamers, 3 Joes. So this is a 2 cost, which is very good. And his effect is, at the start of your turn, if you have a Digimon with blocker in play, gain 1 memory. This card is so good. So you play blockers at every level, besides 7, although your Bryludramon can make your 7s blockable. So you have 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and potentially 7s that have blocker. Odds are you're going to have a blocker on the field at any given turn. So if you have this guy on the field, you just get a free memory, and these stack. So if you have these guys, 2 of these guys, 2 free memory at the beginning of every single turn. And like I said, this deck is designed to ramp, and this lets you ramp into like really big plays on your turn because you just start with a bunch of extra memory. And what's cool about this, so a lot of people don't like memory setters because it lets your opponent like play into it by like trying to give you that 3 memory you're going to get anyway. which I don't really agree with. I'd rather have the memory and like force them to play awkwardly to try to set me to 3 by themselves. But what's cool about this, Joe, is they can't even play into it. There's no way to play into this. You're just going to get an extra memory regardless of how many they give you at the beginning of your turn. If they put you to 2, boom, go to 3. And if they put you to 3 and you have 3 of these out, boom, go to 6. And also, if you have this guy out, he sets you to 3, and then this guy gives you more. So like 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, ideal situation, you have all 4 of these out, and you have 6 memory at the beginning of every single one of your turns. It's going to be very hard for your opponent to win those games. Very hard. But that is it for the deck. So I'm going to go into like some of the ideal situations and the goals of the deck real quick, just so you guys have an idea. All right, so this is your ideal stack on any one of your 7s. So Kakenmon, when attacking, if this Digimon is level 7, gain a memory. Toy Agumon gives them reboot. Greymon gives them jamming when they have reboot. Raijaludamon Digivolves one of your opponent's Digimon when you attack if you're a level 7. And then Bribalujamon gives you blocker, so you have reboot blocker. And Millenniumon's just annoying because even if they do clear it, they have to deal with it again because it comes back. Ragnalordmon applies a ton of offensive pressure. He's security attack +1, so swinging for 2 security every time, and then a huge 14,000 body that has blocker. And then Alter S, 15,000 body with blocker and jamming. Really good. So if you ramp into one of your 7s and they don't deal with it, they're not winning that game. There's no way. Because every time you swing, Digivolve 1. And you can potentially have the 5 and the 4 of the Legend Arm cards, and you Digivolve 1 on 2 of your opponent's Digimon. And you can just Digivolve the same Digimon multiple times because you activate and resolve these separately. So you'd swing, Digivolve 1, alright, Digivolve again. Put it down to a rookie. The way to get out of the early game is to just set up your blockers, being able to ramp up with a Tai and a Joe. Getting 4 memory every turn will really help your plays. And also, this guy it lets you poke with your small dudes early game, so you can just like poke into your opponent's security if it's the right matchup, and you don't like if you're not playing against yellow. I would say specifically, like it's always good to just poke people. Like obviously, Toy Agumon gives everybody reboot, but a lot of your cards just naturally have reboot. Like let's just pull them out. Let's see. So Greymon gives anything on top of Toy Agumon jamming, which you're playing 4 of. It gives your Ragnalordmon, which you're playing 2 of, jamming. Your Metal Mamamon, which you're playing 3 of, jamming. And your War Greymon, which you're playing 3 of, jamming. So you have a lot of targets for this, and it lets you just, like... Obviously, these 2 let you just poke in early for easy damage. But this is, like, the ideal early game stack right here, is your Angemon, who's at 7k as a blocker. And he has reboot and jamming, so you can just, poke, alright, deal with it. Poke, alright, deal with it. And then once you get a 7, or once you get a 6 and then a 7, like you can just stack on top of him and then just make them deal with it even more. But this deck is a ton of fun to play if you do like tempoing people. I will say, so I think I said it was a 4-card difference from the one I played at my locals. The one I played at my locals, it was just lacking a little bit in the offensive pressure department. So I did, the changes I made were I added Ragnalordmon back in, which I had cut it for locals, but I decided that I do need that extra pressure. Security attack +1 does come into play a lot. And the Brilugemons. I was playing Cress over the Brilugemons, which I don't really think does enough for you to warrant playing it. Like, yeah, it has reboot as well, but I would rather have Brilugemon be underneath one of my 7s and giving them blocker, because I think that's more annoying to deal with than just possibly an extra body from Cress. And also Brilugemon being searchable and Ragnalordmon being searchable from Ludamon do come into play. But this is a very fun deck to use. If you enjoy tempoing your opponent and just ramping up into huge ignorant beaters that also can just keep your opponent from swinging in on you, highly recommend this. If I wasn't going to start using a different deck each week at my locals just so you guys can see something different every week, I would want to play this more. Like, I did have a ton of fun using this deck. I encourage you guys to give this build a try. If you do, please let me know down in the comments if you did. Or just comment your thoughts, what you think of this build. If you think I'm doing something dumb, I'd love to hear it. But until next time, I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to continue to see this kind of content. See ya.